All right, good morning, and glad to have you back on a weekly program, Corporate Governance Platform, brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. I am Funmi Omoburiwo. ICSAN is a leading recognized professional body in Nigeria dedicated to enhancing the status and practice of corporate governance and public administration. This week on the program, we're going to be looking at corporate meetings as a vehicle of attaining strategic objectives. Corporate meetings as a vehicle of attaining strategic objectives. All right, my guest this morning, seated in the studio, we have right here Mr. Omogbemi Adelagun, FCIS, member, Corporate Governance Capacity Building Committee, ICSAN. Is also a lawyer of over 20 years in corporate and commercial law practice, spanning key sectors, banking, oil and gas, telecoms, FMC, and information technology. Good morning, Mr. Adelagun.
Good morning, Fumi. It's nice coming back on this program.
Right.
Thank you.
Good to have you back on the program. And also right here is Mr. Khalidi Ketefe, FCIS, Head of Research, ICSAN. Good morning, Mr. Ketefe.
Good morning, Fumi. To all our timid listeners, I say seasonal greetings to you.
All right. Okay, before we go ahead, let's take this message. We'll be right back.
Hey, Obinna, good to see you. You look so worried. Is everything all right? I'm having serious issues in my company. Balancing the interest of my company's many stakeholders like shareholders, management, customers, financiers, government, and community is giving us a problem. That has to do with corporate governance. Exactly. Then you need to get in touch with ICSAN. ICSAN? Yeah, Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. ICSAN. They provide you with seasoned and top-ranking professionals trained to uphold the standards of corporate governance and efficient operations. You can also get in touch with ICSAN if you want to become a chartered secretary and administrator. Contact ICSAN by visiting the website www.icsan.org or call 009 06 601 69. ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.
All right, still corporate governance platform right here. And like I said earlier, we're looking at corporate meetings as a vehicle of attaining strategic objectives. All right, Mr. Adelagun, let's begin this way. When we talk about effective board meeting, let's look at that word effective in that. What does it signify?
Well, without being too semantic, effective board meeting is simply saying that the board should be able to sit as at when it is required to sit, and that all directors who are required to attend that board meeting are provided with sufficient data and information for them to be able to take an informed decision. And after being able to extensively and rigorously review a strategic issue that is put before the board for approval, they come out with a resolution. A clear-cut resolution, and that this clear-cut resolution or decision of the board is recorded, properly recorded in a minute book. And when they are recorded, there is a follow-up, what we call action follow-up, to ensure that those decisions, those resolutions that have been made by the board are implemented in line with the timeline. That is what we mean by effective board meeting.
Okay, now why is this effective board meeting so regarded as all important in corporate governance?
Well, it bothers down on the fact that first we ask, why do we require a board meeting? And why is corporate governance interested? Why is it that all the requirements of the statutory provisions of the corporate governance codes, the CBN code, the National Code of Corporate Governance, etc., for example, emphasize effective board meeting? It bothers down on the major problem of corporate governance, which is the agency problem, the separation of power or of control between those who own the company and those who have been given the strategic empowerment to run the affairs of the company. That's the board of directors and the shareholders. They are separated. The shareholders, for example, are not involved in the running affairs of the organization. They only involve when it comes to reporting and them asking some questions, and only in certain few matters that are only reserved for shareholders' approval. Beyond that, only the board of directors have all the statutory responsibilities to ensure that the organization meets its strategic objectives. So now, if these board of directors do not meet regularly, and when they meet regularly, those who are supposed to be in attendance are not there. For example, when I was company secretary in an oil and gas company, and then we used to have our board meetings outside Nigeria, there is a particular board member who does not attend the board meeting in Nigeria. There will always be one excuse or the other. But whenever the meeting is shifted to maybe Paris or Dubai or whatever, you will see him always asking, how far with my ticket, And even when we now get to Paris or London and we're having the board meeting, he comes late because he believes that there are other businesses he needs to do during that time. So you discover that the same transit that exists just at tactical or operational level in any organization also exists at the board. Some board of directors are only interested in collecting their allowances. That's all. They said we have the IMD, we have the executive management. They let them. That's their own wala. That's their own part of it, But now, when you look at CAMA and you look at the Code of Corporate Governance, there have to be check and balances, because the issue of dominant personality always comes into into play when it comes to this issue of agency problem. The shareholders are not involved in the running affairs of the organization. Now, these powers have been given to the board of directors. Now, the board of directors now have abdicated their duties, or sometimes they delegate all these functions to a managing director or to executive management. And then the executive management betrays that trust, or they become so dominant that even issues are not well considered before decisions are taken. That is some of the poisonous, problems of corporate governance that the codes and all the codes of corporate governance or provisions or guidelines issued by corporate governance want to try and downplay. Is the issue of dominant personality, in which both the board of directors we have to have non-executive directors to check the executive directors who are involved in the day-to-day administration, check if they are really doing what they ought to do, and to ensure that certain decisions are reserved for the board and that they come to the board, so that the executive management or the MD or whoever does not become extremely powerful. And then there is no freedom of expression, and then issues are not properly considered in the organization. Information is not properly shared among the board of directors. Then what happens? We have, in most of the cases of Enron, WorldCom, some of the corporate governance failures we have over the world, you will always see the major problem is the issue of dominant personality. Okay. And that's what corporate governance is trying to ameliorate.
All right, great. Now, I'm sure there are committees traditionally recognized in corporate governance parlance as board committees. You might want to state some of those committees and let know their functions.
Yes, there are 3 or 4 committees. One of them will always refer to it as statutory committee, because the Companies and Allied Matters Act specifically state that you must have this committee in place, and that's why we call it the Statutory Audit Committee, which is responsible for ensuring that internal control functions, the audit functions in the organization, are properly, put in place. And then we must have Risk Management Committee. Sometimes, depending on the size of the organization, the Risk Management Committee is always infused with the Audit Committee, which is to ensure that proper risk management controls and mechanisms are put in place, to avoid regulatory risk, operations risk, environmental risk, reputational damage, and all those other form of risk in the organization. That's the function of the Risk Management Committee. Then we have the Board Governance and Nomination Committee, which is responsible for appointment of directors and key positions in the organizations. Also, the remuneration of those directors can be part of the terms of reference of that Board Governance and Nomination Committee. Sometimes the Remuneration Committee is separated from the Board Governance and Nomination Committee, but it all depends on the size of the organization. But most importantly, every organization is required to have committees to look at its audit and internal control functions in terms of financial reporting, accountability, and proper disclosure. Also, the Risk Management Committee to ensure that appropriate risk management mechanisms are always in place in order to avoid a situation where an organization is traded away by issues of unforeseeable risk and force majeure. Then we have, like I said, board governance and nomination committee, responsible for appointment of directors, their remuneration, and also for governance guidelines, issuance of governance guidelines and charter for board of directors and also for key functions in the organizations. Thank you.
Okay, let's look at key issues that are crucial for effective board meeting.
Well, if you look at those are all codes of corporate governance, we will be able to extract about 6 features that shows what we mean by effective board meeting. One is in terms of the holding of the meeting regularly. For example, KAMA states that every board of directors must at least meet in a quarter. You must meet in a quarter. Beyond that, there are also situations where even you can pass written resolutions, provided adequate information can be provided through the circular, and then certain decisions can be taken exigently by the board of directors. So, one of the effectiveness features of effective board meeting is regular holding of board meeting.
Okay.
The second is that attendance. The board of directors, those directors who ought to attend, must be in attendance, especially those who are the head of chairman of committees, who are board of directors, non-executive directors. Because, for example, you have a board meeting where we have all the executive directors in place, but most of the non-executive directors who are to check the excesses of executive management are not in place. But then what's the purpose of board meeting? Because every organization always have executive management, where we consist of the MD and the executive directors. So the essence, if you look at it, board meeting is for us to have the non-executive directors and independent directors to come in, to provide a check, to review some of the things the executive management has done. So the attendance is also very key, that non-executive directors, independent directors must be in attendance because they are not involved in the day-to-day affairs of the organization like the executive director. So they must be in the board meeting to review some of the reports that have been provided and to take decisions beyond the terrains of the executive directors. That's the second. The third is that appropriate and adequate information must be provided. Data must be provided to the board of directors ahead of the meeting so that whatever issues or decisions they are to take, they will have taken it based on informed, information that has been provided for them, and they can take what we call informed decision. So most importantly, adequate information is very key. Information reporting. Then decision must be taken effectively in a way that has been required by statute and by corporate governance guidelines. For example, decision cannot be taken by one man on the board and take as a decision. Or, even where there is a dominant shareholder who has appointed a director to act on his behalf, the KAMA also state the amount of the level of resolution. Maybe it's a special resolution that has to be passed or an ordinary resolution. So if a special resolution, and a matter requires a special resolution, it has to be passed for special, which means at least 3/4 of the majority of the directors or whatever have to, sanction. So then finally, implementation is very key because it does not, implementation and recording. Recording in the sense that all the resolutions must be supported, must be recorded. Is very key. Minutes of meeting must always, and there must be reference to those decisions, and those decisions must be implemented.
Thank you so much, Mr. Omogbemi Adilango, SIS. All right, Mr. Ketefe, quickly, some announcements we need to take at this time.
Thank you very much, Fumi. The announcement that we have today is just to shed more light on the Institute's qualifying examination. That is to say, information on ICSAN examination. The ICSAN educational and professional structure is dedicated to the task of broadening the professional horizons of tomorrow's managers by providing programs on a wide range of subjects that leads to a qualification which is nationally and internationally recognized. ICSAN is a professional qualification that results from professional education. To become a charter secretary and administrator, you need to come and write the professional examination of the institute. No one becomes a member of the institute without passing the qualifying examination. Charter secretaries are high-ranking professionals with a broad base of skill unique among other professions. They are trained in law, finance, accounting, administration, strategy, and corporate governance. Charter secretaries provide a focal point for independent advice and guidance on the conduct of business, governance, and compliance. So, you can start this professional journey to become a charter secretary and administrator by registering for June 2021 exam examination. The registration for June 2021 exam professional examination has already started. Come and register now and start preparing for your examination and realize your dream to become a charter secretary and administrator. For more information on issues relating to examination and registration as a student, please call this number 080-90-660-169. Let me take it again. 080-90-660-169. Thank you. Have a pleasant day and Happy New Year in advance.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Kade Ketefe, FCIS, Head of Research, ICSEN, and also our guest this morning, Mr. Omogbemi Adelagun, FCIS, member, Corporate Governance Capacity Building Committee, ICSEN, and also a lawyer of over 20 years in corporate and commercial law practice, spanning key sectors. Wonderful having you on the program this morning. Of course, Corporate Governance Platform returns in the new year. All right. Next week, Wednesday, 10:15 a.m. right here on Equity 9.7 FM. I am Funmi Omoburio. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Hey, Obinna, good to see you. You look so worried. Is everything all right? I'm having serious issues in my company. Balancing the interest of my company's many stakeholders like shareholders, management, customers, financiers, government, and community is giving us a problem. That has to do with corporate governance. Exactly. Then you need to get in touch with ICSAN. ICSAN? Yeah, Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. ICSAN. They provide you with seasoned and top-ranking professionals trained to uphold the standards of corporate governance and efficient operations. You can also get in touch with ICSAN if you want to become a Chartered Secretary and Administrator. Contact ICSAN by visiting the website www.icsan.org or call 009 06 601 69. ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.